Have you ever felt like you're playing a game where you don't know the rules, where no matter what move you make, she always seems 3 steps ahead? This isn't coincidence. This isn't bad luck. What you're experiencing is the silent machinery of female psychological strategy, operating with precision while you fumble in the dark. Today, you'll discover why certain women appear completely indifferent to your efforts, why they respond to some men immediately while making others wait, why they show interest one day and cold distance the next. These aren't random behaviors. They're calculated psychological tactics that Machiavelli himself would recognize and applaud. The pain you feel, that confusion, that sense of powerlessness, comes from one simple truth. You've been engaging in a sophisticated game without understanding its fundamental rules. The solution isn't more effort. It isn't more investment. It's understanding the invisible framework of female strategic psychology that determines your value before you even speak. What you're about to learn will change how you view every interaction you've ever had with women. Some of you will reject it because the truth is uncomfortable. Others will recognize patterns you've suspected but could never articulate. But make no mistake, once you see it, you can never unsee it. You need to understand that female psychology rarely operates through direct confrontation. While men typically solve problems head-on, female power works through suggestion, strategically placed silence, and carefully controlled availability. This isn't manipulation in the negative sense, it's evolutionary strategy, refined over thousands of years. Think about your most confusing relationship experiences. Remember when she suddenly became distant without explanation? When her messages became shorter, her availability decreased, and you found yourself wondering what you did wrong. This wasn't random. This was the first stage of strategic assessment. Emotional scarcity. By withdrawing presence, attention, and validation, she creates a vacuum that forces your true character to emerge. Will you chase desperately, revealing neediness? Will you lash out, showing emotional instability? Or will you maintain composure, demonstrating rare emotional self-governance? Your reaction tells her everything she needs to know about your internal value. You've likely experienced the second phase without recognizing it, the value test. Those seemingly innocuous questions about your past, the subtle provocations, the moments when she intentionally misinterprets your words or actions. These aren't coincidences or feminine irrationality. They're calculated pressure tests designed to assess your leadership capacity. When she suddenly changes plans, becomes argumentative over something minor, or creates a small crisis, she's testing your ability to maintain emotional stability under pressure. Each test reveals whether you're a man who leads his own emotional state or one who can be easily destabilized by external forces. Have you noticed how some women give mixed signals, showing interest then pulling back, offering compliments then becoming critical? This third phase, selective engagement, measures your need for external validation. She gives small rewards of attention or affection only when it serves her assessment process, creating an unpredictable pattern that reveals your dependence on her approval. You must understand that this behavior isn't malicious, it's instinctive. Just as you make visual assessments of physical attractiveness, she makes behavioral assessments of your psychological constitution. She's determining whether you possess true internal power or merely its appearance. Consider how differently she treats men she perceives as high value versus those she sees as average. With high value men, communication is direct, games are minimal, and interest is clear. With average men, the testing is extensive, communication is ambiguous, and interest fluctuates wildly. This isn't random. It's selective strategy deployment based on initial value assessment. You've probably witnessed this yourself. The same woman who makes one man wait days for a response will reply instantly to another. The woman who seems completely uninterested in most men's stories will listen with genuine fascination to a select few. The difference isn't just physical attraction, it's the perception of psychological value. This selectivity creates what psychologists call artificial scarcity, the strategic limitation of access that increases perceived value. When she's mysterious, when she doesn't reveal everything at once, when she makes you earn each piece of information about her life, she's not being difficult. She's creating value through limited accessibility. Remember that time she canceled plans last minute, and instead of apologizing profusely, she acted as if it were perfectly normal, or when she mentioned another man's interest in her, watching carefully for your reaction. These weren't accidents. They were deliberate tests of your emotional security and self-perception. The most sophisticated form of this testing happens through her social circle. When she introduces you to friends, when she mentions you to others, she's collecting external data on your social value. Does her friend confirm her assessment of you? Do other women show interest? These external validations matter more than any words you could speak. You've likely been in situations where a woman's interest seemed to grow after she saw other women engage with you positively. This isn't coincidence, it's social proof validation, one of the most powerful psychological triggers in female selection strategy. This explains why the most successful men with women aren't necessarily the most physically attractive or wealthy. They're the ones who understand and master these invisible dynamics. They recognize tests for what they are. They maintain emotional stability regardless of her behavior. They project value through self-containment rather than external validation. Now here's the revelation that will transform your understanding forever. The ultimate female Machiavellian strategy, the master key that unlocks all others, is the deployment of selective indifference. When a woman has genuine interest in a man's potential, she will intentionally create scenarios where she appears completely indifferent to his efforts, attention, and value. This isn't spite or game playing, it's the most sophisticated test of his psychological fortitude. Think about it. When she reads your message but doesn't respond for hours or days. When she seems completely unmoved by gestures that would impress most people. When she treats your most genuine compliments with casual dismissal. Each of these moments is a strategic assessment of your neediness threshold. Most men respond to this indifference in one of three ways. They increase effort, attempting to earn her attention. They withdraw completely, protecting their ego from rejection. Or they respond with hostility, revealing deep insecurity. All three responses fail the test. The rare fourth response, maintaining consistent, unaffected engagement without increasing or decreasing investment, is what she's actually measuring. Can you continue being exactly who you are, without deviation, regardless of her apparent interest level? This rare quality signals something essential. You assign value to yourself internally, rather than seeking it externally. This test of selective indifference operates on multiple levels simultaneously. On the surface, it measures your emotional stability, your ability to maintain composure regardless of external validation. Beneath that, it assesses your experience level, whether you've encountered this strategy enough times to recognize it, and at its deepest level, it evaluates your fundamental self-perception, whether you truly believe in your own value or merely pretend to. You've likely experienced this test in its most common forms. She mentions other men who are interested in her, watching carefully for signs of jealousy or insecurity. She deliberately misinterprets your words to create conflict, observing whether you become defensive or maintain frame. She creates arbitrary obstacles to meeting or communicating, assessing whether you'll jump through hoops or maintain boundaries. The psychology behind this strategy is brilliantly sophisticated. By appearing indifferent, she creates an information vacuum that your psyche will instinctively fill with either insecurity or confidence. Your response reveals your default psychological setting, your base emotional state when external validation is removed. Most fascinating is how this strategy automatically calibrates to your specific value threshold. With men she perceives as higher value, the indifference will be more subtle, more carefully deployed. With men she perceives as average, the indifference will be more overt, more challenging. She instinctively adjusts the difficulty of the test to match the perceived strength of the candidate. This explains why some men report entirely different experiences with the same woman. One man describes her as warm, responsive, and straightforward. Another describes her as cold, distant, and confusing. The difference isn't in her personality. It's in her strategic assessment of each man's value and the corresponding test she deploys. When you encounter this test and respond with your own form of selective indifference, not manufactured or performed, but genuine emotional self-governance, something remarkable happens. The dynamic completely inverts. Suddenly, she becomes the one investing more, showing more interest, and seeking validation. Watch carefully the next time this happens. Notice how her messages become longer, more detailed, more revealing. Observe how she begins to ask more questions about your life, your thoughts, your plans. See how she creates opportunities for interaction rather than obstacles. This transformation isn't random. It's the natural response to passing her most sophisticated test. This is the moment when you've passed through the ultimate filter. By demonstrating that you don't need her approval to maintain your emotional state, you've shown something vanishingly rare, authentic, self-contained value. And paradoxically, this is precisely when her genuine interest emerges. The most powerful demonstration of this principle comes when you compare her behavior before and after this threshold is crossed. Before, her communication is minimal, her availability is limited, and her interest seems questionable. After, her communication becomes detailed, her availability expands, and her interest becomes unmistakable. The woman who once took days to respond now replies within minutes. The woman who seemed impossible to impress now notices and appreciates your smallest gestures. What makes this strategy so effective is its binary outcome. There is no partially passing this test. Either you maintain complete emotional self-governance, or you don't. Either you show that her approval is interesting but not necessary, or you reveal that it matters too much. There is no middle ground, no partial credit. This is why the results are so dramatic. The test creates a clear dividing line between men who derive value internally and those who seek it externally. You've likely witnessed this with particularly successful men. They don't chase. They don't overinvest. They remain consistent regardless of the response they receive. And mysteriously, they're the ones who encounter the least resistance, the most genuine interest, and the most consistent positive engagement from women. The explanation isn't mystical, it's psychological. These men have developed such complete internal validation that external approval becomes genuinely optional. Their interest in a woman is authentic rather than needy, preferential rather than essential. And this quality, this rare emotional self-sufficiency, is precisely what triggers the deepest levels of female interest. The true revelation isn't that you should perform indifference. That's just another form of external validation seeking. The revelation is that you must become genuinely self-sufficient emotionally, valuing yourself so completely that her assessment becomes interesting but not defining. When you reach this state, when your sense of value is truly self-generated rather than externally validated, you'll experience a strange paradox. The less you need her approval, the more freely it's given. The less you chase validation, the more it chases you. The less you worry about passing tests, the more naturally you pass them. This is the ultimate inversion of the power dynamic, the moment when the game fundamentally changes. And it happens not through manipulation or strategy, but through the genuine development of internal worth so solid that no external assessment can shake it. Machiavelli once wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be, few experience what you really are." This perfectly captures the essence of what you've learned today. The men who struggle eternally with women are those who appear strong but internally seek validation. The men who succeed effortlessly are those who genuinely don't need external confirmation of their value. The woman only reveals her true self, her genuine interest, and her authentic engagement to the man who doesn't require it to maintain his sense of worth. The secret isn't in conquering her, it's in becoming unconquerable yourself. Consider this profound truth. In the realm of female psychology, your greatest power comes not from what you do, but from what you don't need. Every man she's ever met has wanted something from her: validation, attention, affection, status by association. When she encounters a man who operates from a place of self-contained value, who engages with her by choice rather than need, she experiences something rare and compelling. This is why the traditional advice fails so consistently. Just be nice. Show more interest. Make more effort. All of these approaches communicate the same underlying message. I need your validation to feel complete. And nothing triggers disinterest faster than the scent of neediness. You must understand that female strategic psychology is fundamentally a filter designed to separate men who derive value internally from those who seek it externally. It's not personal, it's instinctive. Just as water naturally flows downhill, female interest naturally flows towards self-contained value and away from neediness. The transformation begins when you truly internalize this understanding. When you stop seeing her tests as obstacles to overcome and start seeing them as opportunities to demonstrate your internal value. When you stop experiencing her selective indifference as rejection and start recognizing it as assessment. When you stop trying to win her over and simply allow your genuine self-worth to become self-evident. This shift changes not just how you interact with women, but how you move through the world. You'll find yourself less reactive, more centered, more authentic in all your interactions. You'll discover that the same principles that transform your romantic relationships will enhance your professional and social connections as well. Emotional self-control, absence of neediness, and complete self-mastery. These are the weapons of the modern prince. Only when you master the internal game does the external game reveal itself. Only when you're truly ready, when your value comes from within rather than from others' assessment, will you see the reality behind the strategy. Remember that this journey isn't about becoming someone else. It's about becoming more authentically yourself. It's not about performing value, but embodying it. It's not about manipulating others, but understanding the nature of human interaction so clearly that manipulation becomes unnecessary. The most powerful position you can occupy is that of the observer who understands the game so completely that he can engage with it without being controlled by it. You can appreciate the strategic nature of female psychology without resenting it. You can navigate its complexities without being consumed by them. This understanding changes everything. It transforms every interaction from a confusing maze into a clear path. It converts anxiety into certainty, confusion into clarity. When you truly understand this dynamic, you'll never again wonder where you stand, because your standing will no longer depend on external validation. What you've learned today isn't just about women, it's about power. Not power over others, but power over yourself. The ability to remain centered regardless of external forces. The capacity to value yourself so completely that others' assessments become interesting but not defining. This is true strength. Not the brittle facade that crumbles under pressure, but the deep, resilient core that remains unmoved by temporary storms. So now I ask you, have you experienced these tests without recognizing them? Have you been playing a game without understanding its rules? Comment below with your experiences. If this video opened your eyes to dynamics you felt but couldn't name, hit that like button. Subscribe to see more truths that others won't tell you. And check out our previous videos. Each one peels back another layer of understanding that most men never discover. Remember, you're not seeing this video by accident. You're seeing it because you're ready. The question now is, what will you do with this knowledge? Will you return to old patterns, seeking validation externally? Or will you begin the journey toward true self-mastery, the only path that leads to authentic power in all your relationships? The choice, as always, is yours. But now, at least, it's an informed choice. And that makes all the difference.